Ladies and gentlemen, your BBM3 champion, the first ever BBM3 winner circle.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Oh my god, I had to do it, Pat. I had to do it. For a man who doesn't take the spotlight like that, was that embarrassing enough to kick off the show?
I like that the crown, everything covered my face. I do enjoy that part of it. It was all too big that you couldn't see me. I like that.
Oh man, yeah, we've been doing the winner circle thing for anyone who's won more than 10K, and I think you're the first millionaire in the winner's circle. Yeah, actually, we had King Cap do that after his regular season win as well.
A true zero running back, bro.
Yeah, exactly, man. Let's just start right there. Both of you guys, July 18th, was it?
Yeah, July 18th. Yeah.
What was in the water?
I don't know, man. It's pretty crazy. That's like seems almost impossible. Like, how did both get drafted the same day?
Yeah, I mean, it's beyond, right? Yeah, I mean, you've done so much stuff now, and you kind of talked about the winning lineup. I'm gonna bring up the winning lineup and the draft board and stuff like that while we chat a little bit. But I kind of want to go some different directions here and talk about some things that I haven't heard a ton of. The sweat, obviously wasn't your normal regular sweat. I am #team never sweat. Like from just like a brand standpoint, I'm just.
What does that mean? What does never sweat mean?
I'm not a
punt
big,
it off. You just punt it off so you don't have to sweat later.
Yeah, more or less. That's my general thesis. But if I happen to find myself at the top of the leaderboard once in a blue moon, I'm a big not watch, because like all my decisions have been made and I can't control the outcome. Did any of that ever cross your mind?
No, I'm not a never sweat guy. And so Pete Overzet's a watch pot never boils guy. So like when we've been doing high stakes teams together for years and years, and like, you know, we'll have a sweat there and I'll like update, you know, I've learned like, oh, Pete doesn't even want to know, like, okay, like entering the 4 o'clock window, kind of here's what we're looking at. He's like, why are you telling me this? Like, this is not, I don't want to know.
That's even more hardo than me. That's more hardo than me.
Yeah. I think he'll take that a little bit, like during the 1 o'clock window, especially. He's just like, things are happening and I don't need to know about it, you know? But I think he's watching football. So I'm like, yeah, don't you want to know? You kind of getting some information. For me, I'm like, look, if I was like out on a boat and not watching football that day, sure. I wouldn't want to have to like constantly check my phone. I'd probably check in later. But I'm watching football. So I would like to know like where things stand. It's like I kind of have this gut feeling of where things stand. I just want to know the answer. Like where exactly am I? So I'm a refresh guy. I was sweating this lineup. I mean, like I was in like 20th or something by basically as soon as Daniel Jones started going off, because it's funny, Daniel Jones didn't make my final lineup, but he was locking in a very high quarterback score for me. So he starts going off during the 1 o'clock window. And at that point, I'm kind of like, all right, I'm in like 25th place, you know, something like that. And then Brady and Godwin starts, and DJ Moore. And so then I'm like up around 10th or 11th. And by the time so I'm already kind of sweating. And then George Kittle and Austin Eckler scored touchdowns like back to back. And then at that point I was in like second. So now I'm there's a lot of refresh. And at this point I'm getting messages from Pete and stuff being like, Pat, where are you?
Was the live scoring a little delayed too? Like was it
delayed? Yeah, it was a little delayed.
So you have that on top of it where you think you know exactly where you're going to stand, but you don't quite know until you finally refresh it. And
yes, there was one point where I was like, I was in second and I had like Eckler points that hadn't been delivered yet. Like he was still at 0, and I knew he'd scored a touchdown. So I'm like, just wait until these Eckler points get here. We'll see.
Yeah, you're doing the mental math. You're like counting them because they always show up in your lineup before they show up on the leaderboard. So sometimes if you just click on from the BR stuff, if you click on your lineup, you can see the points and then you can add them up, and then you go back to the leaderboard and you go, I think I might jump this guy. Like,
yes, right. Yeah. So then Austin Eckler hit us the 72-yard rushing touchdown that he had was shortly after that. And that there was like a little bit of a pause between the back-to-back touchdowns and that long play. And in that pause, I realized I had enough time to look at the lineup ahead of me, figure out like, how do I pass this guy? And I had Tyler Lockett. He had Tyler Lockett. He had George Kittle. I had George Kittle. Eckler was like my only realistic path. So when he hit that 72-yard touchdown, I was like screaming my house. And then Pete's like, we're going live. We got to go live.
Yeah.
So
we got to capitalize on this moment.
Yeah.
That was a fun idea to go live and stuff. I don't know. Like, I was thinking about it from your perspective. Like, I don't know if I'd want to be live during those moments because like, the other end of the spectrum is if it doesn't go that way, like, are you a tilt guy? Would you be tilting your ass off? Would you be, getting real mad, throwing some stuff? Like, you seem like a pretty even keeled dude, but like, if you're watching the game, is it a different vibe?
I don't think I would have gotten it would have been bummed for sure.
Yeah.
But there was, honestly, that stream was pretty tilting because Devontae Adams was going off, who a bunch of people right behind me had. George Kittle was like open for a very long play, could have been a touchdown, I think in overtime, and Purdy just like missed the throw. Or I think he got hit while he was throwing or something. It was like way off, but it was pretty clear he was trying to get it to Kittle. I think Kittle almost had another near touchdown. So there was some stuff where, I basically didn't score any more points as soon as we went live. As soon as we went live, I think Eckler had a couple more runs and kind of topped off what was already an incredible day, and just added layered on 5 more points or something. But
that Adams catch right before,
that wasn't really a catch.
That one cost me the BR. I ended up coming third instead of first in that one because of that catch.
Wasn't Tyler Lockett like in and out of the lineup too in yours?
Yes.
Like wasn't he like hurt and then coming back in, and then all of a sudden he'd limp off the field?
Yes. And Rotopat was covering that game. And so I slacked him and was like, what's up with Tyler Lockett? He's like, he'll be all right. Like, don't worry. And then I think he was like, oh, wait, he's with the trainers. I was like, yeah, he's with the trainers. So that's why I think I was asking you. So, yeah, I got all excited for a second, then he was fine.
Oh,
but he did come back in the game.
I feel that because like I'm team. As soon as John says never sweat, I'm just hashtag always sweat like that. I'm not like, and that doesn't make any sense. Like if Pete's watching Red Zone and he's not wanting to know the scores, you're like, no, half the puzzle. It's like, well, then you're just doing the mental math and you're just like, I think I know this. It's like I'm seeing someone pop up. It's like, that's not good for me, but it might be good for like you're trying to like do
how not good. Yeah, so, I'm sitting here in this uncertainty. I know
I need to know
semi good, semi not good.
So I feel you. Like if I'm on a boat or if I'm doing something where I'm just disengaged, like then I don't need it. But if I'm watching football, there's no point not to be sitting here like refresh. Where am I at? Like that just seems silly.
The big decision point was, when do I tell my girlfriend? Because for her, right, that's like a sweat. Yeah. That's a sweat she doesn't have to have. So it's like, when do you impose a sweat? And that I've done that before. Go ahead.
Well, I was like, this isn't like The Spy. Like, this isn't like you're not sweating, like 50 to 100. Like this is life-changing sweat. Like, do you want that burden, right? Like.
Well, I found it hilarious when you talked about you're not telling your parents, because you have to explain best ball and all of the outcomes and what happens. And you're like, well, what are we cheering for? It's like, well, here's the list that everyone just tweeted the Excel sheet. It's like, I don't want to have to do that until I know that it's like something I can explain that I have. Like that would just be like the hardest thing to explain. So,
well,
married.
My dad did text me. My dad texted me because I still hadn't told him entering Monday night, and he texted me like, "What do you need tonight?" I was like, "It's funny you ask. I don't like low scores from T. Higgins and Joe Mixon in particular." But he didn't know the stakes. But yeah, I told my girlfriend, because I was like, if at a certain point I just like started reacting to things, and then I had to explain my behavior is really what it came down to. But I'd previously gotten like close. I've won like a couple small like the Engage 8 and the spin move on DraftKings. So there's been like a couple small hits, but there was one time like I was, I don't know, like 5th in the red zone or something, and which I don't know, it pays off 50K maybe, and I was like, okay, this is real. I finished like 30th, which doesn't pay out really anything of note. So I was like, okay, I can't jump the gun here, if it's got to be. So, but then when the back-to-back touchdowns happened, I was like, I'm running hot. So she's like, what is wrong with you?
NBA like, Jam heating up. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I had to explain what was causing me to be a weirdo. And then the Eckler touchdown, like I was legit jumping around and screaming. So then at that point I was like, I'm in first place. So, yeah.
Are you a pacer at all? Like, are you jumping around?
Time.
Yeah, because that's me. I can't like see when you got on for a stream. It's like you wouldn't see me. You would see me every 5 minutes just walking across the camera. Yeah, I wouldn't. There's no way you could get me to sit down and watch that without pacing around, and like that's just that'd be tough.
I think the stream like does it channels energy though, right? So there's like you have this nervous energy that you can, because you're on a live stream, like you're kind of putting some of the energy into that in a sense, right? So it was easier than I thought it might be, because there was like a place to put some of the energy, or is it like I was pacing around a lot, if I'm not on camera. So I don't know. Ultimately it was kind of fun because, I've got my buddies on and we're talking about what's happening, and it wasn't disastrous. So even though it was even though it was tighter than I wanted it to be in that 4:00 window, and it's like one of those things where, okay, I'm in first place of this thing, but it's a tournament that has a Sunday night game and a Monday night game, and my lead isn't that big. And so I'm still basically just like hoping I'm in position to win. I'm hoping like it didn't feel like I was really holding it at that point. So it kind of all felt like a fun thing, as opposed to like, this is real as long as this happens, like just a couple more minutes. Like it never felt like that, because I knew I had 2 more games to get through.
Yeah, that would have been agonizing to watch that on Monday night if that game went to completion. Like, you know what I mean? Like that, I don't think I could have stomached watching you watch it, because it would have been like, I don't know, we're sweating like a James Cook handoff with 3 minutes left in a 40-20 game or something like this. Like it would have just been, it would have been agonizing.
Well, if I'd gotten kind of dusted off, if I'd just been like, okay, Pat's in 11th now, I think we would have been like, good night.
Log off.
We're not watching. We're not like, let's see if I can hold on. Oh no, 51st. What a bummer. Okay.
Look, actually, that's a good little segue, Pat, because I really wanted to talk about like the EV calc associated with it. I've talked about in the past how like these contests are getting so big that there is going to be other avenues for like third party, like staking of high profile players who cannot afford to play these contests, but we think are talented, or talking about like selling equity and like equity splits down the line, or even like third party market of selling teams potentially in a contest of this, because there's so much money on the line. And if these contests just continue to grow, I could see this taking a very similar path to like poker and stuff like that. Like I know Leone did a bit of like an EV calc or something like that. Would you have sold that team like Sunday afternoon after that window, like 30 cents on the dollar? Like, would you have sold it going into Monday night for like 300K or like something like that?
No, I wouldn't have. But if I'd put more thought into it, I probably would have sold a piece of it.
Okay.
So, the more I thought about that, I was like, yeah, I kind of am open to that idea, but it didn't end up happening, but it was something that I was like, okay, if I'm going to sell, maybe I should think about selling off like a piece,
Yeah.
but that would be, because like to me, I mean, why do we all we're all playing this tournament? We're fully aware that it's a very top heavy payout structure. I wish it was like a little less top heavy, but it's still like the goal is to do a little bit of money and turn it into a lot of money. So there's, that's like the fun of it. I wouldn't want to just like get, a third of the way there and sell it. But selling off a piece so that like to lock in, because if I finished 11th, it's 10K. It's like kind of a gut punch if you're thinking like I might win 2 million and then you win 10K. So
yeah, I mean, nobody needs that. Nobody needs that thought in the back of their head for the next 3 years they're watching football, especially someone like you who's doing so much content associated with football. Could you imagine every time you had to write up T. Higgins for the next 3 years, you just go, that motherfucker. I cannot believe he scored 3 fucking
T.
touchdowns.
Higgins fan.
Yeah, right.
T. Higgins was like my third highest drafted wide receiver or something. Maybe fourth or fifth, but he was in the mix. Yeah. So I know that would have been rough for sure.
What about like the hedging angle and stuff? I know Lev asked you for a second. The way I thought about hedging would have been to build pick'em parlays for like, I mean, you would need like some liquidity, but you would have to build like 20, 30K worth of pick'em parlays at 2K a piece, basically leveraging all 30, 20-ish lineups behind you. So like just running through their lineup and being like, okay, this is a Mixon plus Knox plus whatever, and then hedging in that regard. Did you flirt with anything like that?
No, that's actually way sharper than what I was thinking. I was like, well, I should just do some same game parlays of like T. Higgins, who was like the scariest guy. But then I was like, God, if it's not Higgins, if it's Mixon, because there's just too many. But that would have been pretty sharp to just go through and like literally kind of make the lineups, and it's with the big guys, because it was a lot of, it's like on this one it's Boyd and Knox, on this one it's Mixon and James Cook or whatever. So I wish I'd thought of that. That's a good idea.
It would have really. I almost reached out, but I didn't want to interfere. I was just kind of like stand by or whatever, because like. You don't know how people handle different situations and how to think about that. Like I would be thinking very like analytically like that, I guess, but like not that you wouldn't, but just in terms of like, you don't want to interfere with other people's like stuff. That's yeah.
No, I mean, I would have been kind of interested to hear the thought for sure, because for me, it's like, it's just like overwhelming because you have all the emotional stuff too. And then also I had a double news shift on Monday that I probably should have called out of. But I blurbed from 8 to 6 that Monday.
I've been missing the walkthrough, man. I've been missing the walkthrough. What's going on here?
Well, I wasn't. The plan was never to do a walkthrough. I was gonna maybe do a playoff preview thing that didn't get written, but the walkthrough is a fantasy football article for fantasy football season. That's how I.
There you go.
Yeah,
I like that. I can respect that.
Playoffs are for fun.
Another thing that like. A lot of people have been thinking about, or like their minds go and like, people win like these big scores and like 7 figures hits different. And it's like, hey, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to, bet on myself, or I'm going to do like stuff of this fortitude. And people like have these conversations. For me, with you being like so entrenched in this industry and having spent like, people who don't know your background, like just being like from fantasy land to being a paid employee at NBC on TV with Matthew Berry is like an amazing achievement in like a 4 or 5 year window. And then still having the humility to like do stuff with us when we had like 4 viewers on Monday afternoon, like early, right?
But
like,
I mean, the whole point is to talk about best ball and stuff. Like that's why I'm doing
true.
it. So it's not, I don't,
exactly. So for me, this for you is like, this is the crowning achievement of job security forever. Like that's how it comes across to me. It was like, this is the badge of honor.
Have you been talking to Davis?
Yeah. This is like the badge of honor of like, you're unfireable now. Like this is incredible. Like you're the best ball guy now, right?
I mean, it does. Yeah, it's definitely, it is nice to have like, the immediate thing of like, yeah, this is. I was actually in Vegas and we were talking to the guys, the Go Bills guys. We met them down there, but I was talking to Mike Shope, who does some stuff for Draft Sharks, and he was we were hanging out, and he's like, do you feel like the pressure to win something? And I was like, yeah, have you heard of the Engage 8? You know,
yeah, right, yeah.
It's like, no, you haven't, because so there is like that thing of like, okay, at least like for kind of people coming into the industry, you know, which is, I feel like there's a lot of turnover in the, you know, fantasy space with just like the consumers, you know, like people kind of more into fantasy at certain points of their lives and stuff, you know. So to have that just as like, you know, a signpost of like, hey, I won this thing, I think that's definitely a nice perk of the whole thing for sure.
Yeah, because I mean that in the FFPC main event for me are kind of like the two, and I guess if you win a DK Millie Maker, but there's just more of them. But like those kind of 3 flagship contests, those benchmarks are like, oh, okay, that instantly establishes some form of credibility that like someone like myself doesn't have comparatively, right? So it's a very cool little like stamp of approval forever for like the average consumer of football content. And I think that like when people have ideas of like, oh, should he deviate and do something else? It's kind of like, but no, he's doing exactly what he wants to be doing, and now he has this badge of honor. That's how I read into it.
That's kind of how I read it too. Is that it's like it should help with flexibility, but it's also like, you know, last year I wrote a bunch of articles on deep dive best ball strategy, which is like what I like doing. So I'm it's not too much to dial in.
Yeah, fair enough, right? Yeah, and those got 30 views last year, and this year they'll get 330.
Exactly. Hey, man, I mean, I did. It's all there.
Yeah. There's something poetic and like beautiful about like this conversation where it's like you've been so vested in this. You did the 150 max. You wrote articles about it. Your life has been consumed by fantasy football content for whatever, the better part of 3, 4, 5, whatever years. But then the person who comes in second place had 2 bullets. And the person who came in fourth place had 1 bullet. And it makes for this beautiful ecosystem, in my estimation, where it's like, this is a skill-based game with a big, you know, edge if you put in the work and you grind at it. But hey, you can also just run hot as fuck and be right up there with those guys as well. And I think that's what draws or should draw a lot of people to best ball going forward. Do you agree?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I ran hot as fuck. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
there's you go like to get one lineup into the final 470, you have to get really, really, really hot. You know, like you're like, if you're meeting expectations, you're getting a lineup in like every 6 years. So I mean, just to get one in, it's like I'm like, I was psyched I got one in. And then now you have a 1 in 470 chance of winning, which is not that high, you know. So you have to then, even if the lineup is built for, I mean, like if you were only like, let's say you were only allowed to build 1 DFS lineup a year, and you were put it into a 470 man contest, and you got to build it that day, you'd still be like, what are my odds of shipping this GPP? It's the only one I get to play all year. Like, that's basically what the whole format is, a qualifier to do that. And you don't get to build it that day. You have to build it in July.
Yeah.
So it is like I mean, you have to run super, super hot for sure. It don't matter. So in that sense, like, I think it's, you know, if you just want to fire a couple bullets, just fire a couple bullets, because maybe you happen to land on the right combination. You still, I think, should be trying to put in the, you know, think through some of the correlation stuff, because this is ultimately a 1 week GPP in week 17, and you should play it like that. And there's also 2 other single week eliminations before that, that you should think through that whole thing. But, you know, if you're, I think it's helpful to do that stuff, but ultimately, like, you might happen to have the right guy in week 15, the right guy in week 16, and then, you know, you have what you have the nuts in week 17 and you take the whole thing down. I mean, to your point, second and fourth, just fired a couple bullets. It's clear that you can go that route because of how much variance there is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that just makes for such a beautiful structure. Like over the course of like the last 2-3 years, I mean, like dating back to like when we even tried to build a platform, right? Like it's just like the format makes so much sense on so many levels for just like enjoyment purposes. Yeah. Okay, we talked a little bit. You've broken down the lineup at length. You've talked about the week 17 correlation. You just touched on how the GPP, whatever. What I want to ask you is, how are people going to look at all the content that was this last year? All your look at your lineup, look at all the advance rates data and all this sort of stuff. How are we going to look at all that and go wrong next year? What is some avenue that is going to be a takeaway that's not actually a takeaway for us going forward?
Well, I think the thing. So I talked to Davis about this. I'm starting to think that the big angle could be leverage next summer. Like all the kind of in the weeds, like best ball bro strategy will be like leverage. Like, how do I get guys in the playoffs that win me the playoffs who aren't the guys who won everyone the regular season? How do I get into week 17 with low owned players? I think there's like maybe some takeaways to that. Like my lineup had a low owned Brady stack that I think was helped by it being a 3 quarterback team. So maybe there's something there, but like it is a weird quirk of this year that Josh Jacobs gets all these lineups to the playoffs and then disappears. Justin Jefferson has his worst game of his career in week 17. Like there's all sorts of stuff. Saquon Barkley was chalk in the final, didn't do anything. Kelsey kind of disappeared in the fantasy playoffs. Just like on and on. All these players who were like absolutely essential to advancing teams didn't do anything in the playoffs. And like were healthy. So it just seems fluky. It seems like really, really fluky. So I think like a lot of, and like we probably are better off just like not thinking about that too much because it's unlikely to repeat. But it's also hard not to think about the fact that, not having Justin Jefferson in the final was one of the keys to winning. And, like to the extent that you can pull some levers to maybe be a little bit different than the field, it might be worth thinking about. I don't know, but that's maybe if we're going to kind of gal brain ourselves off of like good plays, that trying to think through leverage might be one of the ways we do it.
Yeah, I like the thought process, but what's curious about your like isolated lineup is the leverage actually came through week 17 correlation as well, right?
It
so
did,
the leverage was just kind of like naturally realized.
Yes.
So it's kind of like,
that's why I think there is something to it. So that the dangerous stuff is like when we're right, but then we put too much weight on it. Which is why I think this is potentially one of those things where it's not like there's nothing to leverage, but like figuring out how to properly weight how much we, want to focus on it or whatever, and how you would even focus on it. I don't know. Like Mike Evans was, I thought, a very bad pick. I had very little Mike Evans. Luckily in this draft, he went before I picked Saquon Barkley in the second round. So I would have had to take him in the first round to get him. So I have no regrets about how I built this because it would have been impossible to get him. But I wouldn't have taken him in the second round. I know I wouldn't have. I wasn't taking him there. I wasn't taking him in like the late second. So, but then he goes off in week 17. So is that a bad idea or is it a good idea? Should you be taking guys that you don't like because maybe you think, I can potentially get them there with different combinations of players than the people who do like them? Is that a good idea? Is that a good idea in the 18th round, but a bad idea in the second round? Like, I think that's like all stuff to think through, but you could take it too far. Maybe you're just drafting players you don't like because they're not good picks.
Yeah, it's very interesting because the other thing that I kept thinking about with this lineup is you've touched on your overall ownership, and I've been a big proponent of overall ownership doesn't really mean that much outside of whatever. Okay, forget it. Like just in terms of like, I think entirely in terms of combinatorial ownership, and I play very like diversified and GTO versus like getting very exploitative on like isolated player takes and stuff like that. But it's also very interesting to just play to that point, to look at your roster, know that Rashad White was your highest owned player, period, and then have a Brady stack with no Rashad White be like the one that gets through, or to know that like Tyquan Thornton, who was a huge piece of leverage for you in the final week, was owned exactly one time in your 150 lineups.
The right one time.
Right, exactly. So in my mind, I look at these things and I go with the takeaways of like, okay, this is a little confirmation bias for myself to be like, yeah, the GTO thesis is somewhere in here. And I want to run with this, but I don't exactly know how. How do you feel in terms of like the getting very exploitative with your player takes, with that sort of thing, going forward with your exposures and that sort of thing?
I think I'm always going to be like a player takes, take my stances type of guy. I mean, this does have Ramondre Stevenson, who I got in the 10th round in this draft. That's one of the nice things about drafting in July, I guess. And he was a big stand guy for me, but it doesn't have a lot of the other big stand guys. Although Eckler and Barkley were both targets for me, neither one was a guy I was taking a huge stand on because I was drafting a lot of zero running back teams, a lot of hero running back teams. So I was mixing in a lot of the early round wide receivers. Kittle was a stand guy, and I would say elite tight end in general was a sort of a major leverage point that I had on the field overall. But yeah, a lot of these guys were not guys I had a lot of. Brady, Tua, Daniel Jones, none of them were like big time stance guys. So I guess for me, it's like, I think one of the big takeaways is if you're building with different structures, which you should be really comfortable with building in all of them. Like it's not just enough to be like, I'm going to let the draft come to me and, I'll decide what to do. It's like, you got to let the draft come to you, but then execute a strategy really well within, like, if you're going to, with the 2 running back strategy, the bimodal strategy going running back, I knew, I wanted to wait for that 3rd running back a really long time. That's something I've done a bunch of, kind of comfortable doing that. I had been experimenting mixing in 3 quarterback builds with the 2 running back build specifically because I know that I don't need to like get my 4th running back in round 11 or 12. I can wait a little bit further to do that because I have those 2 early running backs, which I did here. So being able to kind of comfortably build within those structures. And then I got boxed out of stacks that I would have liked, right? Like there's not the sexy stacks on here, the games that we were all excited to stack up, but I still stacked up the games, So I, instead of like taking one-off pieces from games I liked better, I just went with the Dolphins and the Patriots and the Giants and the Bucks and a bring back from the Panthers. Like, and I did a George Kittle and Hunter Renfrow mini. So like I did what I like literally just went with, and that's how I ended up on Tyquan Thornton, right? I don't take Tyquan Thornton and Mike Gesicki, who almost hit my lineup. He scored a touchdown. I don't end up on those guys if I'm not doing Dolphins Patriots stuff. So I guess that, and I don't end up on Mostert, probably. Mostert and Michelle, who I took 16, 17, where Michelle was on the Dolphins at the time. And I was like, I'm taking 2 stabs to get 1 Miami running back because that's probably all I need with the running. I've got 2 early running backs plus Ramondre. I probably just need to hit 1 running back. I'll burn one of these picks to get 1 guy. And I ended up finding Mostert. So that kind of worked out. That's a strategy I've done in the past as well. Like, these are both $1. I'll kind of correlate them. And if I hit 1, it's worth way more than $1. And I can burn $1 and it's not a problem. So, but I guess that's to me that the stacking games that I didn't want to stack, but still doing it, not like tilting that I'm like, I'm boxed out, but I'm going to make sure I get a piece of a chief or whatever. yeah, I think that was probably the biggest takeaway for me.
Yeah, and I think my biggest takeaway from what you're saying there is we have to know all the background knowledge and then apply it on the fly effectively, right? Because like I talked about it so much with poker back in the day that like you couldn't just jump into the streets and be a loose aggressive player. And Mark Garcia and I doing the pods in the off season made these analogies to poker because I think it's just so beautiful and we both know it so well. But like you can't just show up and play every single hand and expect to win. You have to know how to play a tight strategy. You have to know, how to play a loose strategy. You have to know all these different avenues, and then you define what is the best applicable strategy based on what your opponents are doing. And for me, from a best ball theoretically standpoint, it's we adapt in every single draft based on what's being given to us, but we also know how to define all these sound structures and like frameworks from the jump, right? And I think that's my biggest takeaway is I'm not going to be and not to say that I ever was, but I'm not going to be, hey, I'm a hero RB guy. Hey, I'm a bimodal whatever. I'm a zero RB guy. I'm not going to say like define myself like that. I'm going to define my profile as I understand all of these things and pick and choose my spots.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go. I still think of I like zero running back the best. I think it's the most fun to draft. I'm having the most fun usually when I'm draft. I'll kind of break ties to that. I had a bunch of a lot of my favorite teams were zero running back teams. A couple of them almost got into the final, but it's like it's one thing to be okay. So I'm a zero running back guy. What does that mean? Well, I actually had hero running back as my most drafted strategy because it's half PPR. I also really like hero running back. I think it's a really effective strategy. I like getting access to these legendary running back seasons that we just got from Eckler. And hero running back helps you get there. I had like 26% hero, 24% zero, and like 17 something percent bimodal. So like,
were you tracking that stuff as you were doing it, or was that retroactive analysis?
So it's actually not even full retroactive because I still haven't loaded in all my lineups this bike week. So that was like through that was through like 135 drafts. So
okay, yeah.
I was kind of tracking as I went to see where I was at. Yeah, I was kind of like checking in every few weeks is honestly what I was doing. But yeah, I mean, like if you're like a true, like I would say, and people would, I think in the community would be like, yeah, you're one of the zero running back guys. Well, about a quarter of my drafts are zero running back. So it's still like, and that's, I don't know, it seems like a lot to me. So if you're not comfortable drafting another strategy, like I think it's okay to be like a hardcore, this is my favorite strategy, but you still probably use it on about a quarter of your drafts.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe like elite tight end. I think I had like a 60% clip on. Elite quarterback, which this was not. I think I had about a 60% clip on. So maybe with the onesies, it's a little bit different potentially, but at least that's the way I did it last year. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like an emotional thing. Like, where do you want to be like emotionally invested in the strategy or not? And
right.
I kind of like being like
defining yourself via the brand. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love it. Oh man, cherry on top that Ronald Jones scored that touchdown the following week too. Like that was a classic. That was a classic ball don't lie moment. Like that was a classic. Like like everybody can have their opinions on how it finished and what the sites chose to do, and then it was like Rojo scores that touchdown. It's like ball don't lie, boys. Ball don't lie. Like this is great season. I got two. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, there was a comment here. It's ironic to see a ship chaser win with bimodal running back. There is sort of like if you're having trouble mixing up your strategies, one thing I would suggest is like thinking through, like let's say you don't do a lot of zero running back, like, but you feel like maybe I should mix this in a little bit more. Think like I'm gonna beat these ship chasing idiots with their own game. I'm gonna outdraft them with their own strategy. So I think it is, and I kind of have the same thought sometimes. We're like, you know what? I'm gonna do I'm going to do running back, but I'm going to do it better. I'm going to do I'm going to do the better version. I'm going to, so there's, you should, if you need to fire up that competitive edge there, I think that's helpful.
That's funny that you say that, because I used to do that in the randomizer drafts, like just like when Pete would throw them up. He doesn't do them in like the BBM and stuff like that. He just does those like $3 like
team.
Closed ones or whatever in the 12 team. And like I think I won like 5 of the 6 of those ones, because everyone just came in there and like one team's dead from the jump, and then everybody else just comes in there and goes full piss boy. And I just did exactly that every single time. It was pretty funny.
So wait, so did those
just to look and see it later? Like,
you're like scooping up? So like,
I wasn't trying to. I was just drafting along with fun. Like, I'm not trying to scoop $20 from the ship chasing community.
Are you not? It sounds like you are.
Just drafted along. It was pretty fun. I got 2 questions for you, and then let's just jump into this week. But just quick ones. I want to ask the structure of best ball going forward. When does too big become when does the contest be getting so big that it kind of just becomes full lotto and there's kind of no point in playing, or something of that magnitude? Like, do you think this might be the biggest prize pool we ever see in best ball, because this is the perfect structure, and then all of a sudden we'll have maybe 2 of these next year, or we will have something like that, opposing to having one bigger contest?
I would be surprised. I mean, I think when it gets to week 17, the conversation starts to be about the money up top. It's like you're going for $1 million, $2 million, whatever. I mean, in terms of driving the conversation, I think it's to underdog's advantage to have that number be as high as possible. So if it's, I mean, and I think at some point, if it's, my hope would be like, I think they could probably go up to like, I would hope it stays under 1,000 or something. But if there's a final if the final gets bigger, the money to first gets bigger, but then there's also more money like overall in the final, I think that would be pretty cool. But I have no idea. That I'm just like totally guessing. But my guess would be it continues to grow. I don't think we've hit the end of it. I mean, I've been attracted to some of like the DraftKings structures where there's only 20 people in the final, where it's like, it's so much more realistic to, you get there and you can actually take the whole thing down. But if you're playing again, like a DraftKings, like GPP, just like a regular DFS tournament, there's not like, we're probably not entering like a different realm of contest until we get to like a 2,000 person final or something, right? Like we're kind of past like true small field, or we're kind of teetering on the edge of it at 470.
Okay.
You'd probably like from about 470 to 1,500, maybe. I don't know. I don't know that it's like that different.
Yeah. So for your mindset, it's basically exclusively about that final week in terms of structure. So you wouldn't care if there was 500,000 people in the contest versus 1 million people in the contest, as long as that end window stayed manageable, effectively.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And how much? What are the pods? That would obviously change as well. Like if that's increased, if now it's 1 out of 30 to get in, I mean, you have to pay a lot more attention to. That might be that. Like, let's say it was 1 out of 30. That's bigger than the final in some of these DraftKings contests that I was playing. So you got to basically win 2 finals in a row. So I think that would be kind of a bummer. I think getting a team to the final, I guess like if I was, giving my input, I think getting a team to the final is really fun. And so making that achievable would be like, making that less achievable, I don't think would be great.
Okay.
Making the final slightly bigger, I think, is like probably due. Like if it went to like 600 versus 470 or whatever, like, does that really matter?
Right. Yeah.
It's probably Mike Evans' team who wins, but Mike Evans scored like 50 points, so that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I think it's a very interesting conversation, and there's some good segues there into like what the future of basketball is going to look like, and how we can optimize with different structures and blah blah blah. Those be some fun conversations to have this off season, just in general. But yeah, I just wanted to get your thought on that because I think everybody's biggest takeaway is like, holy shit, that thing filled. Like, look at how much money was up top. Now what's next? Like, what's the next structure going to look like? I think can we get 10 million up top and this sort of thing. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts more or less.
10 million up top would be like, I would be worried about what second place was.
Yeah.
10 million up top, 3,000 a second.
Well, I think would be really cool is if I don't think they'll run back the same structure next year because I think that the site is growing in such a magnitude and whatnot that they can fill bigger. But just having that extra million from the regular season and then dispersing that in the final week to flatten things out would make a lot of sense to me. And running with a very similar structure, and then just kind of expanding from there, but doing away with that regular season one and then dispersing amongst the finals kind of makes.
So you didn't
I
didn't mind the regular season thing. I thought it was kind of fun to see who like reviewing the lineup a little bit. It's like, it was a 0 running back team, so it was kind of like, okay, running backs won something now.
Yeah, that was the first feather in the cap for this season. It was like, all right, now we can point to this one in the off season.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden this robust team with 3 quarterbacks and 8
backs I can win with whatever I want.
Yeah,
as I can lap this other guy's team.
Oh man, so good. Yeah, let's jump right in here. I know you said you have been doing some of this stuff. Admittedly, I have not been doing a ton of the returns stuff yet. We've been focusing primarily on the BR right now, but snap fills. Look at that influencer stuff. Don't worry, we'll roll the 101 Pat. Oh, but strat wise for the returns versus the initial gauntlet, is there any difference in stuff that you're thinking through, Pat, having seen a playoff game, having seen or know some injury stuff, that sort of thing? Is there anything different with advancing your 1 out of 6 in the returns versus the original gauntlet for you?
So I didn't do a ton of the gauntlet stuff. I did like a mix. But one thing I was looking through is like, oh, it's really nice that I, got through because of DK Metcalf, but like, I don't have DK Metcalf now, and now I have to advance. Now the bar for advancement's gone up. I've got a bigger group that I have to win. So I've been trying to think through like here, and I'm curious for your guys' thoughts on this, but like, I haven't really been doing much game stacks. Like I've been trying to like pick okay, so let's say I do, a Jalen Hurts stack. Then I'll try to get, 2 teams from the AFC coming back, but I'm not, I'm doing like the Chiefs or the Jags or the Bills or the Bengals so that I have guys alive in the conference championship. And then I've been more inclined to like, if I've got Bills and Chiefs, I've been more inclined to tack on like a Cowboys as opposed to a Bengals because I'm getting the chance. So should we go Allen here or?
Yeah, I'm fine with I'm fine with either Allen, McCaffrey, or I think it's Allen or McCaffrey for me. Let's do Allen and see what happens here. See if maybe we get a little dig slide or something of that. Sammy Knoll in there, good player.
But I guess so. I'm sort of thinking through like I think I'd rather have a lower advance rate in round 1 for the chance of a higher advance rate in round 2 to be like if I get the games right, also I think the Cowboys are getting disrespected again. I think they're live.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway so far, especially after what we just saw that defense do to Tom Brady without even blitzing. And now all of a sudden you're going to just be like, oh, what, Brock Purdy's like got all these sick weapons? Well, guess who else had a bunch of sick weapons? Tom Brady last week, right? Like all of a sudden, like it's like Purdy's just got to get the ball out of his hand quickly and hope Debo rips off a bunch of big runs or something. I don't know. I think they're getting disrespected in a big way. And I think for me, a couple of these that that I've done or whatever, I've been looking to that Dallas back stack quite a bit because I think their price tags are suppressed.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so this gets interesting here because like Diggs doesn't come back to us, and we can start building out like a different side first, and then maybe get Gabe Davis on the wrap, or we can go ahead, take Gabe Davis, and build out stack. What have you been tending to do, Pat?
Sometimes I've gone AJ Brown, and I think you can also go Niners, so that those would be the two paths, I think.
Yeah, let's go Niners.
Okay.
Let's go Niners and ruin this guy's day who just took Brock Purdy right there. Because I think
we made the guy Tuesday because he has Hurts. So
that's true.
It's
that's
a little
true.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah, this is me comparing Tampa Bay Gold players to Sam. My fucking Brady doubles that ran me into the ground all year long.
I hope he's done so I don't have to hear you tout that anymore. I can't do another season.
He threw the ball 65 times or whatever. The thesis was correct. He just didn't throw it to the right guys.
He did in the right week.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Right
yeah.
Yeah. There you go. You're welcome.
It is super tilting when you get sniped on AJB there.
I like Kittle, and then I think that was kind of like the thesis with the San Fran thing versus.
Or do we want to go
Gabe stuff?
Because
I'd prefer to do Kittle, I think.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. Look, we could talk about some of the tertiary Buffalo options and stuff because I think there's like a plethora of one. Okay, I want to get your feelings on this because one thing I've been talking about recently is in these contests, I'm hunting touchdown equity more so than contingent value. So for me, it's been like, hey, who is going to have like Quentin Morris in the Super Bowl or Cole Beasley in the Super Bowl, their prop to score a touchdown versus like second running back on another team or something. Maybe it's an imperfect comp, but I've just been thinking through like seeking outlying touchdowns to push teams through. I think like diversified touchdowns, I guess I would classify it as.
Like John Brown goes really late.
Yeah.
He could easily catch a long touchdown.
Yeah, and like the Shakir role has really expanded. James Cook or Singletary or Dawson Knox, do you have a lean?
I like Cook.
Okay.
I feel like he's more correlated with Allen.
Yeah.
Than Singletary.
Just as the pass catching volume.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
This is my first mitten return draft. I've just been so BR focused and hoops and everything that's non-football that this is me dipping my toes into these waters.
Yeah, we're daily bros now.
You really are calling it the BR.
Yeah,
a couple of tries with the BR. Oh, what are we doing here?
I don't know.
Knox?
I was going to ask you. Yeah, Knox kind of makes the most sense for this build, I think. Do we want to be two teams, or are we going to try? I think we're going to have to try and thrust a third team into here. But like from a structure standpoint, Pat, have you been building like single quarterback, kind of like 2-3 running back? What have you been building?
Yeah, I've been doing single quarterback, 2-3 running back. I think I've gone 4. Because like one of the things I've been thinking through with this contest is like, there's gonna be some right answers, like who gets in the end zone. You know what I mean? Like there's not that many people to choose from. So it's like it's a short slate in a sense. Like the structure probably won't matter as much because it's just gonna be about a little bit more about like having the guys who scored the touchdowns. And so if you get 4 running backs, I think it's fine. You know, there's not like the opportunity cost of the receivers is lower. So I've been a little looser with that.
Okay.
You said 4 running back, and Nez immediately is. I'm surprised he's not typing in the chat already. Just saying.
Yeah, Nez has been about it.
Yeah, the confirmation bias.
I think these are my two favorite picks left associated with these stacks. And then we can go ahead and mix a third team. Jags kind of made a lot of sense to me as a third team. Do you have a lean here, guys?
I think Mitchell. We saw him get used to the goal line.
Yeah, the one I keep harping on, Pat, is that they had a timeout. McCaffrey gets them down to the goal line, and then they had either a flip the quarter or they had a timeout, and Mitchell was still the guy who came back out. Yep. And it was like, ooh, okay, like, is this a roll? We could probably wait on Shakir, so we could try and build out, I guess it would be Giants.
We could do like a Quez Watkins or a Mecole Hardman and try to get someone, because it's just conference championship stuff.
Okay, let's do. You think Hardman plays this week?
Probably not.
Yeah, fuck.
I know he's practicing. He practiced both, but I guess I'm thinking more like he's for the shootout with the Bills in round 2. I think he practiced both days, right? So
DMPs.
Oh no, he did not practice. He did not practice. I'm not running the walk.
Yeah, I'm kind of like team. He's not going to play this week, but maybe not because of his ADP right now, but that might be a contrarian piece for the following round.
Right. And we're trying to build that shootout probably with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I think the Chiefs are going to win easy.
What do you want to do a Quez here? And we could do a Juwan Jennings too.
I'm down with either. Do we get
okay?
So Shakir. I think Shakir. I've been sniped on Shakir, and I don't like it. So I'm fine getting him.
I'm a Shakir guy now.
He looked good.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't
that
drop
catch
that
where
long
he extended
catch,
up, yeah, that was sweet.
Mm.
And then the non-catch, like the catch that he did, and then that was called incomplete. Yeah, like
man, these guys are lightning quick on these picks right now. Like this is a sicko draft.
What do you expect?
I know. It's true.
Quez? Do you want to do Quez? Or do you want to do Jennings?
I think I want to do Jennings. And just kind of like we're so far down the hole now that like what's the bet? What's the difference in the bet on Juwan Jennings score and Quez Watkins scoring? So at least this is correlated. That would be like my initial thought process. But what do you think about CEH as the final pick here? Do you think that's insane? Like, could he be a healthy inactive this weekend?
Yeah, he could.
Yeah.
If he plays, he might score like a healthy inactive.
Yeah. It might be fool's gold.
Who's calling it gold?
That's true. That's true. Okay, I got a player in mind. that I like better than him. But it's going to set us up for a 1-2-7, which I don't love. But I like Justin Watson. I think the Justin Watson role is like kind of real. Like the fact that he's playing like over 60% of snaps and running in some 2 wide receiver sets and stuff like that. Like I actually think the Justin Watson role is like pretty real comparative to like what they're doing gadget wise with Kadarius Toney.
He's like their Jalen Guyton.
Great comp.
Which is almost always useless, but when it's not useless, it scores a lot of touchdowns.
It's so true. Which is basically the thesis on Quez as well, right?
Yeah, it's the same.
I mean,
although he plays some out of the slot, but he's a big play guy. But yeah, it's very similar. Clear out routes downfield.
Exactly. You guys want to rip another one of those, or do you want to?
Yeah,
I would be remiss also, Pat, while you're on here, if you got time for 2 drafts, because I'd love to do a BR with you just for this week, because that's where we've been so focused as well. Do you have time for 2 quick ones?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. Okay. Wait, did I do mitten returns? I just flipped it. I did gauntlet returns last time, right?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay, we gotta do a gauntlet again. Just because like I clicked it, and then when you refresh the homepage, and then all of a sudden the tiles moved. Oh,
So that's grinder problems.
Oh yeah, this is
Look at
friends and
this.
family.
Look at this sickos draft. Yeah, we got Neil Orfield in here. We got Paul in here. We got Samuel in here. Just all the sickos are out.
Oh God.
All the sickos.
The 1-2 and the 1-3 are hard to navigate.
They are. They are.
It's almost easier to be on the back half. You just do some Bengal stuff. You just like take all the studs. Oh, they're all in the mid.
Little pump
At least
fake.
at least you pump faked him for 5 and not a gauntlet. So everyone didn't just register for a 25.
We should have done
Oh,
it.
man.
We should have done
The
the
mitten
big
of
man.
death.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
what
should've
is
gone
that?
big
What does that
mitten.
draft room look like right now? That mitten.
Oh God,
Uh,
that's amazing.
yeah, that's actually a fun little fit there. Tom Brady with the Vikings. I don't know. I think
Oh,
Kirk's
God,
got
with
way
that
too much
line?
money. Kirk's got way too much
We're
money
probably
on
gonna
there.
extend him, so he's not going anywhere.
Let's do Jalen Hurts because I think the Philly stuff is easier to come back to us than if we took a shot on Allen and we just built an Allen team.
Yeah, I like Hurts.
Okay.
You need someone out of the three who really likes Niners, and God, the Niners look so good. Don't they
Yeah,
look
they
good,
do.
guys? They look so great. They look so great. I would be so psyched to stack them up with Josh Allen personally.
Yeah, I mean, well, just in general, like, what's your feel on this weekend in general? Like, you think you got some strong stances, or you think all these kind of games are like we could go any which way kind of deal? Like, do you think Jags have a chance? You think,
Not really.
no, yeah.
Yeah, the talk around our community. There's a lot of Jags upset talk going in our community. That a lot of people love Onslaught and then just think it's a lot closer game than Vegas and people are thinking.
I've thought for most of the season that the Jags defense is atrocious against the pass. In the EPA per play and stuff, they're sort of middling, but their schedule has just been so easy. We got AJ Brown.
There we go. Easy click for us here.
And Paul being the San Francisco guy, we know he'll take Purdy, right, Paul? Just do us all a favor.
Purdy and Kittle, easy stack right there for you. There is some
Devonta Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's an easy click too. Yeah, I think this side of the board just sets up so much nicer for Philly than the Josh Allen
I
sweat.
Because that double's so clean. Like it's almost Seattle-esque, right? Like you're getting like the whole offense, or like the Dolphins. Like those three teams are about as concentrated as it gets.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we've talked kind of at length here. If you just block out the names of AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and you just look at like the targets per route run, you just look at some of the yards per route run, some of those metrics, they've basically the same player, like completely different stylistic football players and body types and whatever. But like you just see it, and it's like, oh wow, like that's more credit to Devonta than we've been giving him credit mentally. I think that's kind of like my takeaway with those two right now.
Yeah, and the way they've been using him a lot on screens. They also use Goddard a lot on screens. They don't, for whatever reason, use AJ Brown as much in that role. I think he's more kind of their primary downfield guy. But like the Eagles, they switch their game plan up depending on their opponent. And if they're not protecting Hurts all that well, they tend to use screens a bit more, which makes sense. And Smith has tended to do really well in those game environments where if they can just sit back and chuck it, that's when we've seen the AJ Brown explosions. But in a best ball type contest, I mean, they're both, I think Brown definitely has a higher weekly ceiling, but both have a ton of value.
I like that. I think Goddard, and then kind of shut it down on Eagles.
I'm into it.
But you could twist my arm.
What does Paul have? What's Paul building?
He's got Niners. He's got Niners plus Mahomes.
Okay. Well, we'll see what he does. All right, sweet. I think Mixon is pretty awesome.
Cool.
Yeah,
I like Mixon too.
I was hoping for that. I mean, just hope that whole That whole team runs through that this weekend. Mixon is pretty thrust up in the BR streets. Like he's kind of RB2, RB3, something like that. RB3 behind CMC and Saquon, and kind of goes at the tail end of the second round this week.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's RB4, but he's right next to ETN. So yeah, he's been thrusting up a little bit.
Well, there we go. Neil's in. Neil, when are you coming on, man? Talk to Osimo. Let him sign the permission slip to do multi-platform content.
What's the board? Can you click the board?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah, so Neil's building out Bengals here. Tricky going KC Dallas. Samuel Peoples going little San Fran and Hodgepodge. Buffalo and Giants, San Fran, Dallas beside us. Everyone's a good little stay in your lane draft so far. Nothing getting too crazy.
Yeah, I kind of like being like with the Bengals thing, we're kind of at the other side of the board. Right, of the Bengals here are at the 6th spot. So
yeah, and they also had Sanders. So I was wondering if Neil was going to go another. He didn't really have an option to go another Eagle there unless he went Quez. So
yeah,
my mind goes here.
We could go Tony as well. We could try to build out
and get like some mini Chiefs as well.
Yeah, and have like 2 different options.
So we could make it a 3-team build where we go Tony here, and then we go Hayden Hurst on the way back, and then we just mix and match the back end. The thing with running back is like running back, we're probably going to have to go a bit rogue here, and we kind of missed our window. We're just riding Mixon this week, basically.
Yeah. Is there anybody left? Let's see.
We could pair Samaje Perine. It's going to be unique. It's kind of ugly, but if they get through, they both get through.
I don't mind it because we are betting heavy on the Bengals now.
Yeah. It's just whether we like it more than Hayden Hurst. But I think in a lineup where like we're so heavy Philly early, we're betting that our points being scored are coming through these guys, and there's better back end KC pieces to add that from a receiver standpoint than a running back standpoint, in my opinion. So it's kind of ugly, but it kind of makes sense too. And I mean, who's to say it doesn't pound one in, and then you get the little trailing 2-minute drill, little dump off to Samaje. He finds a little space and does what he did in the Super Bowl last year. Why not?
Yeah, or maybe they ping pong.
Yeah,
like this is the Samaje week. Mixon blows up in the Super Bowl. Then we win all the money.
All of it.
all of it.
Yeah, here we go. Beautiful, Neil. We'll talk in the DMs, my friend.
By the way, Jaguars are 30th in pass DVOA, their defense.
Wow.
Because their schedule's a joke. Their schedule's been an absolute joke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they play the AFC South, right? Yeah. So
yeah. But they also played like the Dobbs version of the Titans, and
yeah,
and they let up like a ton of points. Where can I find them? They let up like 40 points to the Lions.
Okay. Neil took Hayden Hurst from us. I think we shut it down at Bengals. I think we take one more KC. Probably
I'm fine
that.
with either guy. I'm fine with either guy.
Okay, well
You want the running back?
I think we're thinner at running back, and Watson. I guess we could have done Boston Scott or Gainwell too. I might have.
Yeah, but we have the triple stack. Like we want Hurts chucking it.
Right.
So,
yeah, the narrative we've painted is different than that.
Yeah. So I think Watson's cool.
We could do something weird like a Marvin Jones like pushes us through because he's a better play than all of these this week.
If we're doing
we
something
could
weird, I'd
just-
rather do it as a
Yeah.
Cowboy or I'd rather do like Jennings to get, you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
then because it's more likely to be, we might get 2 games out of Jennings, but we know we're getting 1 out of Marvin Jones or we're
One
dead.
out of Marvin. Good
Yeah.
point. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good way of thinking about that. Well, Jennings might be there on the way back too. Is there another play we like more than that?
I don't see
Noah
anybody.
Gray is kind of fun. Like Noah Gray fits the thesis of like what I was talking about by chasing
The touchdowns.
touchdown equity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes
Where
sense.
it's like a diversified 8 points if you get this team through the Super Bowl and we get Eagles versus KC and you get that diversified, 7.5, 8 points, whatever you end up getting from him. It's like it could go a long way, especially in a low scoring game.
Yep. Yeah, because most people are playing for like 5 players in their Super Bowl lineup, and like maybe a couple of those players don't score any points,
Right.
So that 8 points could go a really long way.
Yeah, I know. I'm sick. I'm a broken man. I'm a fragile place.
We could take Gainwell actually. Did Gainwell go? He probably went.
Yeah, we could still take Gainwell or Boston Scott. There's the whole
Gainwell
goes there and Jennings goes. Okay, there goes all our fun thesis about that.
We could take Scott
there you go.
At this point.
There's the Peyton Hendershot bet too. Yeah. So do you like Boston Scott more? Your colleague.
I think so. Just to make sure we have
Kyle threw out a tweet that Boston Scott's never played a game in his career versus the Giants where he hasn't scored.
Boom. Gets us through. Now we have a low-owned Hurts stack because we have Scott getting us through.
Yeah, right.
Leverage.
There you go. That was the gal brain leverage we were talking about. I was gonna say let's do a battle royale. Now
every bad pick from now on is just leverage.
I'm tempted to click the DeBon now, the DeBomb because we got the 2 milli man on here, but I gotta save my bullets for Sunday morning. Yeah. Oh man. Hey, let's talk real talk. How many times did you screenshot that when it came through to the account, or did you provide like bank wire like back stuff and it never actually appeared in your Underdog account?
I kind of got it was a nice timing because we were streaming on Ship Chasing and Pete was doing some drafts, and so I was like, let me fire up a draft here. I'll get one on my account, and then we got a stream immortalized with the $2 million in the corner.
Oh, that's sick. I actually didn't see that. Oh, that's incredible. Yeah. Was that last night?
No, that was no, the money is no longer on underdog.com. Underdogfantasy.com. Yeah. It's in my account now. It's in my bank. But there was a couple day period where it was still there. So
did you think
I guess that was, I forget when, but whenever it was.
Did you think about moving between because there was 2 windows in which you could have moved. There was Sunday. You could have set up address. I don't know where your parents live. Are your parents in New York as well?
No, they're in Delaware.
Oh my God. What? Tax haven. Just pretend you live under
it's a corporate tax haven.
That's not fair. Incorporate, become an LLC, and then I think you could have pulled it. I'm McCaffrey this week at the 101. Do you see anything different?
No, I like it.
All right. Let's do it. Yeah, I don't know. It's very very interesting conversation to have there with the logistics of I don't think you could ever get away with it unless you just never wanted to go back to America again. But
yeah, it's sort of like one of those things of okay, this great thing happened and now you're on the run from the law.
Yeah.
What? No.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not a great thing at all.
Yeah, right.
But no, I looked into the options of what tax law is and everything. So I have thought through what I can do, but it seems like I am a Brooklyn citizen. So
yeah,
that's the way things are heading.
Yeah. Are you gonna upgrade the apartment?
Yeah, well, our lease is up at the end of August anyway, so we were
yeah.
going to move to begin with, but I think we'll have like a slightly higher price range. We're still renting. We're still going to be renting.
Yeah. Well,
But
it's Brooklyn.
yeah, it's Brooklyn.
I mean,
I can afford the avocado on my tacos though.
dude, that was actually so funny that you beat me to that line because I was gonna ask what the big splurges were. It was on my questions or whatever, and I was gonna say other than the avocado, other than the guac, and the king size bed. It's so good.
That's it. That's the money's gone.
For me, I think there's a bit of a tier break this week after Devontae Smith at wide receiver. We could scroll the F down and build some weird stuff here. What do you guys?
I like Smith a lot.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think he's very well positioned.
Okay. Hertz is obviously gone, so we don't really have a natural stack there. We could build out some San Fran stuff and take like Kittle here and set it up for a Purdy. I don't know how you feel about that. We could take Mixon, get uncorrelated, be weird about it, and figure it out later. What do you guys like?
Could we do Daniel Jones and take this from the other side on the Philly side? I assume he goes pretty late.
So yeah. So who do we take now then?
Oh, whoever. I didn't think about that part.
Whoa, that was interesting. I didn't. Whoa, did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
Shouldn't have been
click
Mixon.
ATM.
Shouldn't we got auto
No,
drafted Mixon?
no. Click. Well, if you read, I'm
Now I'm
looking at
gonna refresh.
rankings.
Let's see
Yeah,
this.
see,
Let's see this.
I'm looking
Okay.
at rankings and ETN's ahead of him, so that's why.
Wow. Yo, look at that. You refresh and ETN's ADP is 15.2 and Mixon's is 15.6. Before it was 15 point whatever.
Huh.
So, that's pretty cool, I guess.
That's all.
That's-
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, there you go. Homestead Expedition Florida. There you go. That was the move.
There's I guess like if you're gonna max BBM, just like rent an apartment in Florida and live there.
Yeah.
Just
There
in
you
case.
go.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Ooh, Nez going with the double tight end. I don't know if you heard, Pat, but Nez isn't here today because he's just jamming. He's hanging out in LA with celebrities and stuff, going to movie premieres and shit.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy's big time, man.
Big time in us? Jeez.
Yeah, he's big timing us in a big way. I mean,
Wow.
we thought it was cool when you'd big time us to go hang out with Matt Berry. I mean, Nez might have you here,
I like that it's good. I'm glad it's nice to be big time, keep me humble here.
Yeah, keeps the show grounded. Oh, Silas doing the Lord's work. Yeah, 75 of us watching right now. Where are our likes at? I haven't been asking, but now I'm demanding. Can we hit that like button? Does a world of good for our channel and for Pat's bank account.
How does it help my bank account?
People are asking.
It does.
I don't know.
It does.
Okay. Burrow just keeps on falling here. We could do an IU.
I wish we had Mixon now because that would have been
the,
more fun.
Yeah. We could do the Ayuk and build out like a Purdy thing, a Purdy double.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. I've been talking all week about getting like super densely correlated in these games and building like a lot of onslaught stuff. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, Pat. We could just get ahead of tight end here because Nez took 2 and Lee took 2, Chad took 2. So I mean, like, I think Knox is kind of like just.
Are we waiting on Purdy then?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we don't
Because
get Purdy, we can
if
still
we
do
don't-
Daniel Jones too. Naked
Yeah.
Daniel Jones if you wanted to.
Because the thing is, like, if we don't take Knox here and Knox goes at this back end to tiny builds or Samuel, like, we'll be like kind of like scraping the bottom of the barrel, which isn't necessarily terrible, but it's just kind of like it leaves us in a really weird position with this build I mean, we could have gone with like a Hendershot or like Jake Ferguson run back. I think Ferguson played 50-something% of snaps last week, but they ran a lot of 2 tight end sets, which was like somewhat alarming. And Michael Gallup wasn't on the field as much as usual, but I could see that changing this week against the Niners, but I don't definitively know.
Yeah, they like their run game in Dallas, so it's
Mhm.
tough to say. But God, I mean,
Yeah.
what they should do is just attack through the air. But who knows?
This is a fair point. Bellinger would have fit this team kind of nice too.
Well, there goes
Yeah, this is a good point too. Yeah, the two tight end sets being like because they were up so much early and they were just establishing it. So looking at like the cumulative numbers of snap projections from last week is a bad exercise comparatively. That's a sharp point, Jim.
You can also run on the Bucks this year, which is not typical, but you can.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And they love running it.
Mm-hmm. Daniel Jones goes. So our backdoor plan is foiled. But Chad's setting himself up for a Dalton Schultz plus Dak to finish. So we'll be fine.
We'll be all right. Yeah.
Yeah, the Purdy snipers. Yeah, I don't know if you heard, Pat. There's a new pledge you have to say before you come on the into the streets here. You have to pledge, like people pledge allegiance to the flag and stuff like that in school growing up. Yeah, Underdog put out a new pledge about staying in your lane and not drafting Brock Purdy.
Who's behind this pledge?
The powers that be. The powers that be. We're not entirely sure. It came straight from the top, though. I can assure you, it came straight from the top.
Did it?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe there's a conspiracy here. What's Pete been up to? He's been a little quieter.
Yeah.
A little less streams than usual.
This is very interesting because I've been kind of like touting Miles Sanders a bit this week that I really like the spot for him and them being, 7.5 point favorites at home versus a really bad run defense. I don't know. This is very interesting that these are kind of some of the names falling in this draft room, but I think it's a byproduct of so many people going double tight end.
What happened to Joe Burrow, man?
Yeah.
Why
I'm telling you,
welcome,
man.
Welcome to the Joe Burrow fall. It's you're faced with it every other draft in these BRs. It's like we literally yesterday. Yeah, there he is. Deleted the naked Joe. What does he have?
Naked Joe Burrow.
Yeah, we did it yesterday.
Dak stuff for this.
We set it up everything, and all of a sudden it's like Burrow's there as the last pick. It's like, well, we'll get unique. We'll take naked Joe Burrow.
Yeah, honestly, it makes me want to make sure I have a Bengal if I can get get
6th round Joe Burrow.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, that mix that ETN auto's really looking bad now.
A little painful.
Yeah, it would have been nice if we got Mixon.
Pat, I'll keep clicking until you tell me not to. If you got time for one more, no more.
I'll do one more and then I got to jump.
All right.
Yeah, I'll do one more.
Do you have a preference? You want to do BR or do you want to do a mitten or gauntlet?
Let's do another BR. Then we gotta get a Joe Burrow.
Yeah, let's do it.
He's gonna go.
We're gonna get sniped.
He's gonna go second round now. Yeah, he's not gonna even make it out of the second. He's gonna jump.
Yeah, here we go. The absolute effort. Just take it.
Yeah, the time wasting off the clock there. We could just tell your brain was ticking there, Chad. You were wondering, do I do it? Yeah, do I do it?
Actually, we'd be remiss if we went a show without showing off Chad's beautiful tools. I don't know if you know that these tools exist here, Pat, but if you're ever jumping in the BR streets and you scroll down to that Badge Bros channel in the Ship Chasing Discord there, Chad builds. We save our draft boards so that we can get like actual shared data, and like here's basically 108 of our drafts this week. And he builds out this sheet where, hey, we can see the roster constructions that people are gravitating toward. And then you can kind of search combinatorial ownership. So like, hey, Bellinger plus Daniel Jones was only 1%. Somebody else is in here right now. But Devontae Smith plus Hurts was 11% this week. And we can kind of get a feel for the field in terms of like what's going down right now. Like, Christian McCaffrey, and we can see he's paired with Brock Purdy at a 29% clip. He's paired with Debo 19%. So just a lot of little fun tools to aid us in these games. Yeah, it's a lot of
Kelsey.
fun. But
for me, it's Kelsey. He's pushing 101 territory. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, Pat, do you have a lean there?
I like it.
Okay. Yeah, it's a fun slate to talk through, like just in general, because like we're seeing some divisional matchups where it's like third time meeting. We see the Niners, who balled the F out last week, get the defense that balled the F out last week. So like, hey, what's going to go down in that dynamic? And then I was looking at like some pace data and some like projected snap count data for this week. And every single game is projected to play almost at the exact same pace within like 3 to 4 snaps of each other. It's like 3 to 4 total possession or total plays of one another, which is like pretty incredible for a slate that all the games are stylistically expected to be, I don't know, similar. What's your read on the weekend, Pat? Like game environments that you like, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing will be interesting is probably the biggest hinge point is where is Hurts' shoulder at? Because if he's healthy, you can attack the Giants through the air. You do not need to attack them on the ground. We've seen the Eagles choose the passing attack over the running attack at times, especially if they can protect Jalen Hurts, which they should be able to do against the Giants. So there's a lot of upside there for them to just beat the Giants downfield through the air. And then Daboll seems like he would rather protect Daniel Jones for sure, but he's not Arthur Smith. He's not just going to like do his thing until the game is over. And it's like, we lost by 20. It's like,
right.
He's going to continuously check the score as the game is going and adjust his game plan.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do we have a lean here, Pat? Do we see anything we like here? I think there's no chance
we could go mix in because we know we want to like leave ourselves open to the Burrow.
I think Mixon will be there if we take one of these wide receivers first and then take Mixon next.
I'm down with either Lamb or Smith.
Okay, let's take Lamb. I have an affinity with CD Lamb this week.
I mean, I like it.
I also have like this upper echelon of wide receiver kind of like drops off for me, and then it's just like scroll the F down and mix in whoever. But yeah, I don't know. I've been
T. Higgins seems too low to me. I mean, that's a great game environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, I feel like everyone's kind of discrediting the Bengals a little bit here.
So Mixon, or did you want to go Higgins?
I'm fine.
Yeah, we could do. Let's do Mixon and set it up.
Skew that RB.
Because I think there's also the Mixon's not going to come back. I think there's a chance Higgins comes back as well. Maybe not now that we just said it and said those nice things about the game environment. But in some non-stream rooms, we've seen Higgins fall to like the 4th round or something like that. And I don't mind pairing Mixon and Higgins as the pieces from that game environment and then leaving Burrow. But we said it on stream, so he goes next pick.
I see Higgins go a lot paired with the backside when they always have a Diggs or Allen. I mean, if they have them combined, they'll normally have them with a run back. If they have them separate, they'll normally do like a right there. I think LED would have taken him there, or if they just have
so we've got Burrow competition here. He's got the double.
He's setting up the double. So Burrow ain't making it back.
Yeah. So
I don't know. We've seen at the end of the draft where we set up a San Francisco stack and he had Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow last round, and he said, "You know what? I want Brock Purdy naked," and he took him. And we're just sitting here and just literally like, what are we doing?
Why?
I can't.
Worst matchup, worst quarterback, unstacked. You got to do it.
That's why I'm just like,
you got to do it. Got to get unique, Pat. That's what the name of the game is. Unique scoring unique points. We talked about leverage, right? That's the leverage.
Flooding into the BR.
Isn't the first name of the game scoring points? Isn't points the most important thing? You got to get points.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, but hey, what if Jamar Chase rushing touchdown? T. Higgins rushing touchdown. And
what if, hear me out, T. Higgins throws a touchdown to Jamar Chase?
Yeah, there you go.
Well, that would be as crazy as like you guys drafted on July 18th, it seems like.
Okay, so Burrow goes there. This is a fun, interesting decision. This ETN fall seems nice to pair with Kelsey. But Nez can't take another running back here, so we can pick the wide receiver we want first. We could do an Ayuk mini. We could put Juju with
Yeah,
Kelsey.
I like Ayuk.
I like Ayuk mini.
Because we might be doing Dak as our quarterback, right? So it's even
Yes.
potentially more than mini.
I think this is setting up fully for a Dak, but I think we're going to have to gamble it.
Right.
Actually, we're not going to have to gamble it. No, because Dez is setting himself up for a little Purdy in the 6th there, a little Purdy party. So I think we can just go ahead, take ATN here, and then let the board fall back, and we get a Dak stack, unless he tries to go backdoor Dak with like Gallup or something like that. But then we still have outs because we have Ayuk to take Purdy.
Is my man on plane Wi-Fi right now? Like, can he not get his picks off in a timely manner? Like, what are we doing, Nez?
He's just engaged in really interesting conversation with various celebrities. So he's
with James Franco right now. Yeah.
Yeah, he messaged us, oh, look, you wouldn't believe who's sitting behind us at lunch, James Franco. We're like, oh, yeah. So, typical, huh?
He's actually drafting this team with Eddie Murphy right now.
He went to a movie premiere with Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy. It's just like, oh, yeah. Sounds like a casual night.
Legit A-listers. I think ATN. I mean, he fits the build nicely. He gets a little run back with Kelsey. We get a nice ADP value. Could this team be duped? Potentially. Is it kind of chalky looking? Potentially. But I think it's a fun one, and it's better than our last one. That's for sure.
I think the ETN fall makes for me, in my head, it makes it seem like the dupe is less likely because of where we got the value on ETN, and they're going to take him earlier. I mean, we just kind of stayed in line with ADP, I'm pretty sure. So,
yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, we could just screw Nez and just take. No, I'm just kidding. We can't. No, that's just the reverse. That's just, I can't do that karma. That'll come right back to me.
Yeah, in a vacuum, like Pat, just from like a this weekend standpoint, if I asked you to like rank the quarterbacks, would you have Dak and Daniel Jones ahead of Brock Purdy?
I definitely would have Dak ahead of him. I think Daniel Jones is in a little bit of a tough spot for sure, but Purdy is too. Like Dallas defense is good, so.
And I think it got overlooked last week, them getting Vander Esch back. Like that's a big piece of the middle of that defense that they hadn't had for a bit when they looked bad and they looked a little exploitable for a bit. And now all of a sudden they get like that filler in the middle back, and it's like, ooh, this team's looking way better on defense, like we thought they were at the beginning of the year when the defense carried them, right?
Mm-hmm. I think I would still take Purdy. Just for, I don't know, he's looked good and thrown for a lot of touchdowns and everything. So I guess I'm semi a part of the Purdy hype, but I mean, Philly's number one in pass DVOA. You can run on them though, so maybe the Giants like go a little bit different and just like we're playing ball control. We're just not going to let the Eagles have the ball. We're just running. I could see him going that route. So, but I like Dak over Purdy.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I like that too. Boom. What a nice squad. Yeah, that ATN falling piece, like getting that like 11 picks of ADP, even though ADP is an artificial construct that's made up by people no smarter than us. But just to suggest to get those 11 picks of value there is it feels good. Sweet. Feels nice. Pat, appreciate you, man. So happy for you that you won, dude. Like, honestly, just it feels so nice for the industry. It felt so nice for us. Just to see your hard work over the last X amount of years of this unpaid labor of ship chasing and providing this value to the community. And then to see it kind of all pay off for you was beautiful for us. And we will forever be appreciative of you taking a shot on us and coming on here when we had 4 viewers and now we're pulling 80 today. Hit that like and subscribe. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks guys. Thanks for having me on. The support from everybody through this whole thing has been awesome. It's been a huge part of why I like doing this. You know, you get like the internet's kind of a weird place sometimes. We have our little corner where we get to talk about correlation and leverage, and it's a good time.
Yeah, it's actually super nice that like everyone's very friendly and like untoxic and like I'm not sure what your like responses were, but like you're getting Austin Eckler shout outs, you're getting everybody's congratulating,
Yeah,
but like all
overwhelmingly positive was
right,
the yeah.
which is amazing because especially with like the quote unquote black eye of how it all ended and stuff like that, like people could have been hostile, they could have been apprehensive, they could have been like, hey, you're taking money off my table kind of thing, and everything that I've seen, read, talked about, like everybody's just such a supportive community, which makes it so great.
For sure. Yeah.
Love
And
it.
It is like, it's tough. I mean, the whole way it went down is tough, but I think the community has been, it's just, we have a good community, so it's it's a testament to that.
Absolutely proud to be part of it. All right, guys, do us a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you're not playing on Underdog Fantasy, what are you doing with your time? Use promo code BADGE to sign up. 100% match deposit up to 100 USD, and you too could be vying for that $2 million prize pool next season with that sick promo code. Pat, thank you for being here. Numi, thank you for being here. Best of luck to everybody in the BR streets this weekend. We will be back tomorrow. We'll do a little bit more BR content, and I think we're going to be doing a little something with Pete tomorrow, though I just saw the message and haven't even told them yet. But yeah, I think we'll be doing that tomorrow too. So yeah, everybody's favorite time of the show, the end. Peace.